Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Coffee with Colleagues. And I'm excited today to welcome my buddy and ConferenceDirect colleague, Mr. Brian Chisolm. Brian, welcome to Coffee with Colleagues.
Hey, Jeremy, thanks a lot for having me. I'm really looking forward to this conversation and admire you and what you're doing within our industry. So anything I can do to kind of help share both of our voices together today, I'm really looking forward to the conversation.
Well, I think that's the purpose too, man. You know, you're an industry vet. I learned a lot from you, and so with all of our conversations and things we've talked about, I think you got a lot of wisdom to share. So hopefully, the people who tune in today will feel the same way. Your path to the industry, Brian. Give me a little bit about how you started in hospitality and what brought you to ConferenceDirect.
Yeah, my path was a little indirect. I did not grow up, go to college thinking I was going to be in the hospitality industry for 20 years for sure. Sociology major, worked in a public school system in New Haven, Connecticut. Then when I wanted to reach out beyond the school system, I went to I went to GW, George Washington University in DC. They had a tourism program. And so when I was really going for the sport management piece of the tourism program because I was working in sports previously. But they had a master's in tourism administration with a focus in sport and event management. Graduated from GW. When looking for a good job, I kind of started. I had some contacts at Marriott. When I was in grad school, I was parking cars. I was a valet at a restaurant here in DC called the Prime Rib. And, one of the guys' cars we would park every weekend was a guy named Bill Tifo. Bill Tifo was a vice chairman of Marriott. And he was just a great guy. Had a lot of small talk, a lot of conversations. And then once I graduated and was looking really to resettle, he walked me into Marriott. He kind of introduced me to, some of the brass up there at Marriott Corporate in Bethesda. I had an opportunity to work at the headquarters. I worked in the market for a little while, selling to the sport and event management group. So I did a lot of youth sports, a lot of professional sports, a lot of collegiate sports, did some training. I think it was the training piece and it was the diversity conversation we were having on a regional level that kind of led me to becoming a director of sales and marketing and property in Washington, DC. And, I learned so much when I was working, for Marriott in Washington, DC. It just really opened my mind, my brain to this whole kind of tourism industry. Wasn't where I was planning on going, but as a newly married guy and, started having a couple kids, it was like this was a good industry and a good business model to be a part of. It's not just a business model, but just a good industry to be a part of, right. Where I saw, instead of going back like teaching and coaching because of the salary differences in teaching, of course, my wife, who was a teacher at the time, we feel like teachers should get paid a lot more and all of that, but that's a different story for a different day. But Marriott just kind of gave me that opportunity to grow, learn, kind of have some national, international experiences there. And towards, just in life at that age, in young 30s, mid 30s, you start thinking about what else can I do? I enjoy working with customers. I enjoy working one-on-one. I just got this entrepreneurial bug, and I just kind of felt like it was time for me to figure out what that next phase of life was going to be. That really kind of gave me the flexibility to be a father, to be a husband, to be available, and to sort of have an uncapped opportunity for what my family would be able to do financially, as well as just kind of from a time management perspective. So it's been a good decision, and that was back in 2005.
Okay.
So I've been with ConferenceDirect since 2005. So now just past 16 years with the company in November. It's been an unbelievable ride, and I'm sure we're going to talk about some of that now.
Well, take me back to that moment in 2005, though. I'm sure there's a lot of fear and trepidation. I mean, I think a lot of folks that face the decision to leave a steady paycheck in the hospitality world to come into something that's more entrepreneurial in spirit. You eat what you kill. You got to go out there and build up your business. Walk me through the fears you had of making that jump and what ultimately led you to make that decision.
I kind of laugh.
Right?
Yeah, it's only made me smile a little bit because it was the word fear. I don't think I was, I don't think I ever used that word fear in terms of making a decision to move from from Marriott to Conference Direct. In
Good to hear. I
fact,
like that.
if I had fear, I probably would not have left Marriott,
Okay.
because at the time I actually did a double kind of whammy. In my life, I had made decisions at 22, at 26, at 30, kind of different points in my life to transition from one thing to the next. And when I made those decisions, like leaving New Haven to go to GW, honestly, I didn't even have the full plan figured out yet.
Yeah.
But by the time we finished the process, I had a full ride for graduate school at GW.
Nice.
Room, tuition, board, job on campus, everything worked itself out. When I decided to get married, when I decided to leave Marriott, I decided to leave Marriott. I
Okay.
wasn't going to Conference Direct.
Okay.
I decided it was maybe time for me to do something different. Maybe I was going to go back into nonprofit schools. Again, I had 2 young kids, and I was thinking about my life at the time, and I wanted to project myself into a certain space.
Okay.
And so while I was out there looking and thinking and feeling, it opened up the opportunity, like a lot of folks. I went through Searchwide. I saw a Conference Direct on Searchwide. Again, it wasn't like a highly recruited, talented guy out there like they do now, right? I saw the opportunity. I researched it. I talked to Brian Ritchie at the time.
Yeah.
I went to his new person orientation. And it was just kind of the possibilities that was interesting to me, the ability to be uncapped, to be my own boss, to kind of do the things that I wanted to do. And again, I didn't have a fear, and I also I can't even articulate it how I was feeling now, but I knew there was always something inside of me that wanted to direct my own path. And I absolutely fell in love with the hospitality industry. It was after I left Marriott, it was after I was in this search zone that I realized, from all of the experiences I had had with Marriott throughout the previous 6 years, that there was just something cool, hip, trendy about building a career, a life in this hospitality industry.
I love it, man. And I love how you kind of flip the narrative on that too, because I think sometimes in the process of jumping from the hotel side to our side, we do focus, and even the way I frame the question, I'm kind of guilty of it, right? Focusing on the fear of what is out there, as opposed to emphasizing the potential and the upside, which is freedom to work for yourself, building your own path. I love how you kind of flip that narrative. But now you join Conference Direct, you got to build up your business. How did you go about looking for new clients? I mean, especially because it sounds like you were leaving Marriott without the purpose of joining Conference Direct. You fell into the Conference Direct piece, but you built a really successful career. How did you go about kind of getting your clients, and what did you do to set up yourself for success?
You're going to probably find throughout this whole conversation, I have a way of flipping words and questions, right?
I love it, man. Do it.
Because, and again, they all, when I think about some of the decisions, I made throughout my life, and at certain times, maybe I didn't have fear, but I was maybe perhaps a little foolish, right? Because you think, right? Like, I know this person, and when I'm thinking about building a business with Conference Direct, there's that confidence, right? There's that swagger, there's that thing that you think that you have. And like most people, you have to, let me really rewind it. A lot of people weren't around in 2005 with Conference Direct that are still here now, but obviously there's some veterans who know what I'm talking about. In 2005, you were like a nomad almost. You went to Brian Ritchie, and he did his wonderful training, and got you going and got all the tools and resources. And in your mind, you're thinking, this is how I'm going to build my business. But really, you were a nomad, what I mean? And now you're smiling and dialing, and now you're thinking about, how is this going to work? And you're getting into the real work, the real details of it. And, we do a much better job today thinking about whether this is a job or whether this is a business. And at some point in that first year or so, like it still kind of it was confusing for me, like back then, right? I think I always knew I was working for myself. I can only, eat what I kill, but you were dependent for so long to have sort of this kind of, shelter or sort of these kickstands or these resources available to you. So that's where the foolishness came in. And the way I speak to people now about joining ConferenceDirect is, come in with the plan. I said, we have so much more information. I can share so much more information with you. I'm not just looking at the top bookers. I'm not just looking at people who are being successful. Let's think about how you're going to step into this moment. Because when we hang up this Zoom, or we hang up from this meeting, or leave this space, you have to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's about the action. It's about the action steps. And I can just truly, honestly say in the first year or so, I struggled. Not knowing I was struggling. Again, too foolish to know I was really struggling. Actually took a job,
Okay.
within that first year, another job, a full-time job, and kind of maintained it. It was funny because it was actually after I took the full-time job that I got my first really big meeting,
Okay.
and it was like, 3,000 room nights, and, it was booked over, and I'm so excited at that point. I'm like, but, I worked that job for about a year. And around that time, 2006, 2007, things were transitioning. The teams were being developed. Vandermeer was doing all of those trainings and stuff like that. And I had an opportunity to reconnect with Doug Barman as a team leader. And we just kind of sat down and put a sort of a re-entry plan back together.
Okay.
And that's what we did. We went for it and gave 100% at that point.
I love the fact that you kind of hustled your way through, right? I think some people do think that, making a decision for CD has to be an all or nothing gig, right? But your ability to kind of, as an entrepreneur, man, if you need to put another job in place to make money, I've loved the freedom that ConferenceDirect has brought my life to explore different opportunities, consulting opportunities, and things that come your way as extra income, and changing that chip in your brain, like you said, from being an employee to being your own boss is that was probably the biggest struggle for me when I made the transition. It was a mental shift. You recognize you're your own boss, but putting the pieces in place to really act as your own boss, I think is a completely different thing. So I'm encouraged to hear your story and kind of how you hustled your way to get that. I know you as a guy who's super genuine. I don't know your client mix or who you do business with a ton. You've spoken a little bit about it in the past, but tell me who you connect with and how you get your clients. I think people put way too much thought into like the business aspect of it. When I found some of my best clients are friends of mine. They're people that are doing meetings, and I just naturally connect with these people. You impress me as the same kind of guy, is working with people who you just connect with. Tell me about who are your best clients and how do you kind of go about, again, just connecting with people.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a half a step back. I'm not gonna go too much further back, but answering that question and thinking about how I ended the last one, at the early part of this thing, had two, then a third kid.
Okay.
So 3 young children and a wife that wasn't working at the time. She was working at home. She was taking care of the kids, and it was my job to get out there and be successful. So I had this extra layer of pressure on, and I put it on myself to be successful for my family.
Nice.
I will say that because the way you asked the question and the way I connect with my clients, it really comes through the lens of being family first.
Nice.
My wife has been my rock. Adrian, she's been supportive. Even when she was kicking and pushing me to be successful, like we're having a conversation to be real about things, right?
Mm-hmm.
That first client that I told you finally signed that first contract. There was Ramon Hunt. He was with AME Zion Church down in Charlotte. When I started, we were living in Charlotte, part of the church family, met some good people. And he's like Uncle Ramon,
Yeah.
And so, it's how you tie your business to your person. And I hear many of us talk about it, like, what's important to you? Like it's important to me that when I work with people, I feel good about it, right?
Yeah.
Like it's important to me that if I'm having an impact on their business, on their professional career, on their, maybe it's a volunteer organization that they're a part of, but they have some influence with. A vast majority of the people that I work with know about my wife, they know about my kids, they know about me. Because to your point, as we're moving forward, if you're going to have long-term relationships with people, we'll all take a layup here or there because it's easy, it's money, it's revenue, we're capitalistic. But if you're going to have long-term success, one of my best clients is AAPT, American Association of Physics Teachers. I was on a FAM with Uncle Ramon, in Tampa back in 2008. And, it's a great weekend, great little visit. We get on the airplane, we're flying home. One of the other attendees was flying back to Baltimore as well. Her name is Tiffany Hayes. Tiffany and my wife got along because my wife went on this particular trip. Yeah. And so they got along. And because they got along, I think Tiffany saw the comfort that we could bring into this relationship. And she gave me a meeting after the whole weekend and flying back together. And I got a meeting with her a couple of weeks later. And now we've been working together since 2008.
That's amazing.
And Tiffany will not let anything book if she can help it, through her organization. No, Brian, you need to get, that's grocery money. That's, diaper money. Okay, that's mortgage money. like there's that true sense of bonding that, we argue, you know what I mean?
Like a true family.
We argue like siblings, and I can tell you stories about being on the road and stuff like that. Some of the highs and some of the lows of some of the travel that we have with our customers. But I absolutely love what I do. I absolutely love having an impact on Tiffany's life and her work life, and able to help her move along.
I love what you say there. Talk to me a little bit more about that, because I think sometimes it's hard for people to understand our value proposition. Someone who's outside the industry or someone who's learning about our services and what we do. And you hit on something earlier talking about how, you like to feel good about what you do. There's not much more of a satisfying, feeling that I get than getting wins from my clients from a work perspective, at least, right? Getting wins from my clients and providing that value. Tell me about an awesome experience with a client. Maybe it's Tiffany or Uncle Ramon that you can tangibly see the results of your effort and how it paid off for them. Quantify that somehow in a story.
Yeah, that's a good question. Man, I mean, there's so many of them, right? I mentioned Ramon and Tiffany and Sherry's with Black Enterprise. They have 3 big meetings a year. We could just talk about things and I can be heard. Like when you think about quantifying it, and I can do it in many different ways, but I think Sherry started with in 2008 as well. She's gone through staff, what I mean? There's people coming that, good people, people take other opportunities, whether it's the COO or event coordinator, and when you stick with somebody throughout this entire time and their business pretty good, and that you're there truly to support them and to show them, all of the work that we've done over the last 10 years, and some of the, the wins, whether it was COVID related, whether it was just a normal contract, whether, we could look at our what is it, our cost savings report and all those types of things. We could look at all of those things. But when you look at each other in the face and you say, man, we're battle tested.
Yeah.
Like the CEO knows, and they don't have to talk to Brian, right? But they know that you're there to support that person in their work life, right? And that to me is really sad. And I can go on in like many different places where, some places, there's fear that having a consultant or an outside person helping you, that, it lessens their position within their organization.
Yeah.
To me, it enhances their position within the organization. And if a CEO ever asks me, it's like, no, you better keep that person in that position.
Right.
Because our role is to really complement each other on behalf of this organization. And that's just important to me. And again, when you ask to qualified, I don't know a better way to do it than knowing.
No, I think
that,
you're saying it, man. The fact that you become an integral part of their team, that you provide value, just that you're looked at as an extension of their team. To me, I think that says it all. The fact that you're such a valuable member of the organization without necessarily being part of the organization, that's a huge compliment to you, man. And I think that's what we all strive for when we try and establish those relationships with our clients. The words battle tested, I think, is good. This last 2 years, of course, have been, a lot of battles with COVID cancellations and rebooks, and to be able to rely on a partner like yourself to help navigate through that stuff. I think it's something that I found with my clients to be super helpful for them. And I'm hearing you as you talk about that relationship you have with your clients to be the same thing. That's pretty awesome.
I'll just say this here. I mean, I've been with the company for 16 years. And I'll tell folks, my plan is to be here for the next 16 years.
Yeah.
So what we're offering, in terms of services and relationships are not temporary. They're not fly by night. If you go off and you do some other things and you want to come back, we'll be here.
Right.
All of those types of things are important, that folks know when they're partnering with people, that you're going to be there. You're going to be able to create history together, and so forth. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I love it. Brian, talk about making impact and making history here. You and I both sit on the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Board for ConferenceDirect. It's been a privilege for me to learn from you, and I think that I see you as a leader in this particular aspect of our industry. Tell me about, and I know with your clients as well, this is a huge initiative that you live on a daily basis. Tell me more about your impact in this area and where we're headed with diversity, equity, and inclusion practices with our industry.
The best part of this conversation for me now is having it, right?
Yeah.
It's funny because I've been leading with, CD caring and connections, in presentations now, right? Whether it's, talking to somebody who's interested in joining ConferenceDirect, whether it's talking to a new client, whether it's talking to an old client, and you can say, I absolutely love the work that we've done over the last 2 years. It's something that I really believe ConferenceDirect was right on this edge of moving the needle in that direction. I love the fact that we used our quiet time appropriately. I love the fact that we don't have it fixed. We didn't fix the problem.
Right.
But I love the fact that we can talk about it because, and I said this, I was one of people said this to Jerry and Brian, gone are the days you want to have like parking lot conversations. Do you want to be sitting, talking to Jeremy up in the suite over in the corner and feel like, are people looking at us? Like, what are they, like, we can't really have this conversation out loud. Now I love it because, I've had some uncomfortable conversations with other associates, and it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. I love the fact that when I'm talking to clients or potential people looking at ConferenceDirect, that I can say 5 years ago, I may not have been as comfortable to have this type of conversation with you.
Yeah.
But man, Brian Ritchie and Brian Stevens have given me the confidence, to talk about the future of DEI and how we're going to be related. Yeah, we're going to stumble. We're going to make some mistakes. We may have to make some decisions that's tough. We have to cut numbers off here and there. But I know the spirit of where folks are coming from. And my job, being here is to help the consistency of that.
Yeah.
Not to not have the conversation. Somebody, a friend of mine, I'm gonna leave this friend nameless for now, but they kind of put me in a position one day when they said, well, Brian, what is your story? And I don't know if I was hesitant to tell my story or if I thought my story mattered, but this is how I feel about my story. My story is I'm just tired of not being able to have regular conversations, like anytime. Like, I'm tired of having to go, to the side. Like, you don't have to do anything to me to make me tired.
Right.
you, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, let's just be able to go back and forth without me feeling like, you know, it's so terrible. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's, I think the biggest thing for me is just like, I'm over 50 now, and I'm getting to that age. I just want to talk.
Yeah.
I just want to be able to say, I want people to ask the question. I want people to feel comfortable to ask the question. And I think we're creating that type of space. And that's what's really cool for me.
Brian, I think I heard someone say something not too long ago. It said, be the person that your younger self needed. And I like to think that the efforts that we're putting forth in this space, and I see you really, again, leading the effort here, is going to help the next generation come along, that these conversations we're having that we weren't having 5 years ago won't even be thought of in another 5 to 10 years, because it's going to be, we've moved the needle so much in this area of inclusion, of diversity, of making people feel that everyone's got a seat at this table. There's not anyone that should be left behind in that sense. If you're willing to put in the work, if you're willing to show up, there's space for you. And I think that's, I'm super proud of the effort, just like you said, of ConferenceDirect, having these conversations and forcing some of these uncomfortable conversations so that they don't need to be had in 5 to 10 years from now, that we'll move the needle and make it easier for people to belong where they rightfully belong, right? So I love that aspect of it.
Yeah, yes and no. I'm just gonna push back a little bit because I don't really see it going away.
Mm-hmm.
But I just, and I think you're right there with me, but I don't want to give that impression that I think is going to go away.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't think it's going to go away, but like, I'll be dang, like, I just don't, I want us to be a part of it. I always want us to be a part of the place where you can have these conversations.
Yeah.
The hospitality industry is large. The diversity in this country is so crazily, all over the place. There's all these segmentations and separations amongst people and ideologies and all of these types of things. I could say I thought a couple of years ago that it was going to die out.
Yeah.
But I don't think we're there now. I think that we just want to be I want to live in a space where I can have these conversations. Anybody come around me, I was having a conversation with Brian Ritchie. I can't remember if you're on the call or not, but he was saying, look, if somebody were to say something bad or I didn't like to an associate or something about or whatever, I would attack that person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so what we want to build up is, I think, more and more and more like strong, good, willing people to push back in many different places that we are not from a minority or from a, there's so many places where there are minorities, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The big cities, the big conversations, those places are pretty cool, but there's a lot of underlying places that's, we're going to, through my lifetime, we're going to be probably working through, to continue these types. And again, I just want to be at a place where we can do it. It can be a part of us.
I like that, making space for the conversations to be had in the first place. That's a great way to put it. Speaking of conversations, we've had a super rough couple of years as an industry. What do you tell yourself when you have, we see the public success of a lot of our peers, but we sometimes overstep or don't see the private battles, right? When we've had these tough days, I'd love to hear from you. What do you tell yourself when the chips are down and you got to pick yourself up? I know you're a provider for your family, like you said. You got to get back out there. How do you encourage yourself, and how do you keep yourself encouraged when the times dip, when times get tough?
Yeah, no. I mean, it's really for my family. Like, when you are, and again, this is kind of, maybe it's hard to antidote for different people, but for me, I have the responsibility of 3 sons, 3 Black boys. I have a beautiful wife who supported me through like the hardest days ever, and whether it was, low income or no income or taxes or, like there's some crazy, like today's not crazy, when you're thinking like it's oatmeal or no meal, like that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I've been doing this long enough that I'm not gonna say there's a huge pad, but there's a pad.
Yeah.
And once we get down to the hard part of the pad, then you're like, wow, this is really hard. But so I just tell myself, I just look at my kids, I look at my family, the situation that I'm in. Uh, you know, I'm not a unintelligent person. I've had experiences that were crazy. So I just tell myself to keep going. Like, and again, I don't know if that's hokey or not, but I just do. I'm gonna try to think of this. I told my son the other day he had a bad day. He lost a basketball game.
Okay.
He's the ninth grade JV game, and he lost. And the next morning he woke up and he was kind of walking around. It's kind of like this icky kind of look, and he was going off to school. And I was like, gosh, like what's the matter? And he finally said it. He was mad about the game yesterday. I don't have time. I can't be that mad. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I can't be that upset. Like the rough days are behind me personally, right?
Yeah.
Like my roughest days are behind me. The universe has a lot of craziness going on, but I have the ability every day to do what I do, to impact people, to conversate, to move the needle, to see the potential, to get excited about, the industry is bouncing back, it's going to bounce back, it's not going to stay down, and when people when other people are getting so frustrated and maybe quitting or changing or downsizing, I'm just plugging along.
Yeah.
I just plug along. I book anything that come along. I have a great team of people. We could talk about that team in a second too. But all we do is keep plugging along. We take care of the people who are in front of us. We take care of them as if they're the only person that matters.
Yeah.
And we keep plugging along.
I think when Brian Ritchie frames what makes a successful conference direct associate, he uses the word grit a lot. And I think you just perfectly described what grit can look like. And, there's nothing hokey about getting up and this will be hokey, but, Nemo, just keep swimming, just keep swimming, man. That's all you got to just keep swimming. And I think sometimes we lose sight of that, right? Because all the distractions and all the problems, especially like you said, when you're starting up and you're being pulled in 1,000 different directions, you're not sure quite what the next step is. Just keep swimming, keep doing it. I'm reading a book, or I actually read a book, I'm reading it again, called Atomic Habits by James Clear. If you haven't picked it up, I highly recommend it. But he just talks about doing a small thing consistently, do it over and over again and keep it. And then you get to the place where you're at, where it's like the hard days are behind me because you've been doing it so long. I love the fact that you're not shakeable because you've put in the work to get to this place to enjoy the rewards. I think that's a beautiful story right there of how grit pays off.
I'm gonna jump on two things right here. The one is that mindset.
Yeah.
The one is that mindset, right? The second, three things. The second thing is who you surround yourself with. I don't know if I'm talking to a person who might be struggling, to say, look, you need to get rid of some people around you or find more positive or whatever it is. Like, but if you're a positive or semi-positive, you're in the middle, just keep working on the positive side of you. Allow that to lean into your positivity.
Yeah.
And like really, and like I don't surround myself with negative people.
Yeah.
Like we know each other. Like I tip my hat to them, and or I'll listen out of respect and stuff like that. But I don't let that feed my spirit.
Yeah.
Because I know that things are tough, and things might be tough for you right now, and I can empathize with you. But the jewel I'm going to leave you is going to be something positive.
Yeah.
So that it helps lift you a little bit. So when you remember something about this conversation, it kind of gives you a kind of a little bit of a lift, something good that's going to, good feeling. So when you see me again, that good feeling, and every time you see me, it's going to be that good,
Yeah.
You might not see anyone else, but I'm going to give you that good feeling when you see me, no matter what the situation you tell me. I'm always going to end it with, the positive twist to it. And if you don't accept my positive twist to it, that's on you, but I have to move on.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I'll say in this part of the segment is, when I say surround yourself with good people, you know, and places like ConferenceDirect or whatever business that you're doing, you know, be willing to partner, be willing to bring people into your space that does things that you might not do as well. But I can tell you, for Honda Hughes, Mershonda, and just recently starting to partner up with Scott Johnson. You know, and again, anybody who comes around me, they're gonna feel that positive grit, that work, that every day, and then they're gonna provide that same sort of thing back to me.
Yeah.
You know, they're gonna challenge me in areas where maybe I'm, again, not strong at. They're gonna accentuate my positives. When they touch my family members, my clients, my partners, the hotels, CVBs, anybody who we touch should be a good feeling.
Yeah.
Because, you know, because when they talk about me, when they talk about Team Chisolm, when they talk about the work that we're doing, you're not, you know, this is going to be one of those places you want to go. You
Yeah.
know, you want to partner with, you know, with this team of people. So
Amazing. Brian, you have been so gracious with your time. I appreciate all the wisdom shared. As we end the call, give us last parting words of wisdom, man. You shared a ton of nuggets here. I'd love to hear how you'd like to end the call with one or two more nuggets of wisdom here.
yeah, that's it, man. So, I mean, again, surround yourself with good people every day. Jeremy, keep doing what you're doing. You know, be a voice for the voiceless. You know what I mean? Be an inspiration to the folks who need to be inspired.
Yeah.
You know, absorb the blows that you can absorb for someone.
Yeah.
And that's what we do all the time for our clients, right? We absorb the blows so they don't have to.
Right.
You know what I mean? I love when Margaret, you know, when our accounts called me up, Brian, you know, they ran out of rooms. I need some more rooms. What do I do? Margaret, I got you.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. You know, I want her to focus on what she needs to do, that she can manage, and let us absorb the things that will positively impact her life. You know, and so that's what we're all called to do. You know, whether you have a higher being that you report to or kind of consult with, but we are all here to help each other.
Yeah.
You know, no one's on this journey alone. And I enjoy my space in it, and I hope others enjoy theirs as well.
Brian, you're adding value to my life with this conversation. You add it all the time, just as the person that you are. I really appreciate you taking the time today, man. And I know the people listening in are going to enjoy it too. So thank you for taking the time to add some value, man. And I appreciate it.
My pleasure, Jeremy. Good luck with the show. Keep it going, brother.
All right, man. Be good. Thanks, Brian.